Welcome back to the Bucks County Conservation District's Backyard Vegetable Gardening web series. In our last video, we explored the benefits and drawbacks of backyard gardening and how to know if it's right for you. Today, we will work on the next step towards your dream garden with site selection. The success of any future garden is determined by its location. We are going to explore how to choose the perfect spot and how to navigate any obstacles you might face. The main things to consider when choosing the perfect spot for your future garden are space, light, topography, and surroundings. First, we'll explore space. If you're building a raised bed like me, then you need to know the dimensions of the bed that you want and how many of them you'd like. When it comes to the width, you generally want to keep it around 4 feet so that you can easily reach the center. And for length, it really just depends on the space that you have. You can do a 4 foot by 4 foot, making it a square bed, or a 4 foot by 8 foot, making it rectangular, but you're really only limited by your space. If you're building multiple beds, you want to make sure you keep around a 2-foot aisle in between them so that you can easily walk and kneel and push a wheelbarrow through if you're deciding to use one. One of the most important considerations is the amount of sunlight that area receives. Vegetables that you typically grow in a backyard garden require at least 6 hours of direct sunlight. If the spot available to you has less than 6 hours of direct sunlight, you can still grow a garden. You just need to choose the correct shade-tolerant plants, and this is a topic I'm going to go into in a future video. There is a great website you can use called Suncalcorg. You put in your address and it will show you the path of the sun at any point in the day at any time of year. Here you can see an example of my house and how the sun rises in the east around 6 a.m. Around midday, it is directly behind my house, right where I want my garden to be, and then around 8 p.m. it sets in the west. I am lucky that the location I wanted my garden to be works perfectly in terms of sunlight. Since it is south of my house, it will receive a direct sunlight for more than 6 hours a day. If it was north of my home, the sun will be blocked, forcing me to build a shade garden. This is only in the northern hemisphere. It will be the opposite in the southern hemisphere. I highly recommend this website to help you visualize this concept and choose the perfect spot with plenty of sunlight. Next is topography, one of the most straightforward concepts. Ideally, you want your garden to be on the flattest ground possible, but it's totally fine if it's on a slight curve. One of the largest concerns with the topography around your garden is if it's on a downhill slope towards a body of water. Any soil erosion or runoff of applications such as fertilizers or insecticides can run off into the nearby body of water, causing issues with water quality and the life within it. Lastly is just to be aware of your surroundings. As I mentioned earlier, it is so important to be conscious of nearby bodies of water, such as ponds and streams, to prevent runoff from your garden from entering the water. Excess nutrients from fertilizers and manure can cause a depletion of dissolved oxygen in the water, killing the plants and animals within it. Something else to consider is nearby buildings, which could shade your garden, causing less direct sunlight to be hitting it and also for it to be cooler than other areas. Lastly is just to be aware of nearby vegetation, bushes, and trees, which could be a habitat for pests which could easily enter your garden. Although there's a lot to consider when choosing the site for your future garden, it isn't hopeless if you don't have the ideal spot on your property. There are ways you can work around nearly any obstacle you may face. In terms of space, you can simply weed and remove nearby vegetation to make more room. For sunlight, you can still grow a delicious, thriving garden in the shade as long as you choose the right plants. And lastly, in the next video, we'll show you how to compensate for slope when building a raised garden bed. This is such an important step in your gardening journey. It's really worth the time and consideration to choose the perfect spot for your garden in order to prevent a variety of issues you could face down the road. Now that you have found the perfect spot for your future dream garden, get ready because next week we'll be building a raised garden bed, showing you everything from the supplies to the steps to make it happen. Thank you so much for listening, and I can't wait to see you next week.